Welcome to Tell Us Something. This presentation is being recorded by Missoula Community Access Television as part of a media assistance grant donated to Tell Us Something by MCAT. It is important to actively listen to one another, to join together, and to support each other and share stories. Thank you for your support of each other and of each other's stories. Tell Us Something believes that everyone has a story and everyone's story matters. Every Tell Us Something is focused on a theme. Tonight's theme is on the road. Kim Maynard has a passion for adventure that sometimes gets out of control. She's worked in conflict zones around the globe and fought forest fires at home, but some of the wildest adventure has been on a personal front. Storytelling is a thread that weaves her life together. She is about to turn 60 and looking for crazy and inspiring ideas on how to celebrate. Please welcome Kim Maynard.
Yeah, good. So I was in the departure lounge of the San Salvador airport, and it was about 6 o'clock at night, and we were about to load onto the plane going to Managua, Nicaragua. And I was standing around with a bunch of other people from the airplane, just about to line up when this guy comes up to the desk and says, "Oh, the flight's delayed." So, okay. He says, "But don't go anywhere because we may load at any moment, so just stick around." So I was exhausted. I had hitchhiked from on the west coast of the United States, walked over the border to Mexico, bought my way through Mexico and Central America, and by this time I was just really, really tired and wanted to get to Nicaragua, where I was going to learn Spanish, have a little place to stay, and eventually work in a hospital. So I really wanted to get on that airplane. So I tried to sleep, but you know those bucket seats in the airport, and especially the plastic ones, and oh, by the way, this is 1986, so they were really bad seats back then. And so I got up and I walked around, and I looked over the glass window into the airplane area, and I saw this guy who looked like kind of like a mechanic, talking to a guy who kind of looked like a supervisor, and they're gesticulating at the airplane, and oh, okay. So about 7 o'clock, the agent guy comes back to the desk and he says, "We have another delay, and we're going to keep you here for a while, but don't go anywhere because we might leave at any moment." So tried to sleep some more, didn't work, looked out the window, saw the mechanic guy gesticulating to the supervisor guy, whatever. By this time I'm getting a little hungry too, and there's a number of kids in there, mostly people from Latin America, it looked like, a few foreigners, it's hard to tell. But you know, kids are beginning to whine a little bit, we were all kind of getting hungry. So about 9 o'clock, the agent guy comes back, and he has a tray of like Oreo cookies. Puts them on the plate and says, "By the way, the plane is more delayed, and we're gonna stick around here longer. Don't go anywhere, because we could leave at any moment." So I gratefully ate a few cookies and hung around, and some kids began to whine, and you know, everybody's getting really tired. 11 o'clock, he comes back and he says, "Plane is postponed till tomorrow morning, but the good news is we're going to take you over to a hotel in town, and in fact, it's the Sheraton, so on us." So that's nice. So we all kind of filed out, went down the stairs into the arrivals lounge and waited. One by one, buses showed up over the course of a couple of hours. Finally, we get onto the buses, and I said, you know, I'm going to be on that first bus, and as soon as we hit that hotel, I'm out of there and into that bed as fast as possible. So it took a long time to get on those buses, and finally we did, and what do you know, not enough seats for everybody. Get off the buses, wait in the departure lounge for another about 45 minutes until finally enough buses and we took off. So my seat was in the first bus, you know, a couple rows back. And we're driving along, and 1986, El Salvador, there's a civil war going on. And we're driving behind this convoy of military vehicles. And the last vehicle, which wasn't very far in front of us, had a whole bunch of soldiers with their M16s just basically pointing right at us. And I'm thinking, whoa, this is looking good. But anyway, we kept going. A few miles later, there's a couple soldiers in the middle of the road, and they're waving us over. So we pull over, and the bus driver gets out, and there's some kind of yelling going on, some people, you know, talking very loudly. And then all of a sudden, bam, 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 and there's automatic gunfire over here. And the whole busload drops to the floor, and then bam, 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 there's the automatic gunfire over there. And we're just lying there on the floor, you know, and I'm up near the front, and then all of a sudden, step, 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 and somebody's coming up into the bus. And I kind of looked up, and there's some military boots standing about 10 feet away with some camo pant legs, and he starts yelling at us, says, get off the bus, everybody off the bus, off the bus. So we all filed out from the bus, and he said, spread eagle against the bus, and I didn't know spread eagle in Spanish, but I figured it out. And we're standing there, and they're frisking us, and they're calling us commies, and they're calling us revolutionaries, and they're just kind of basically telling us we're no good. And finally, I put it together. We're a plane load of people going over to Nicaragua, which had its own civil war going. And you probably remember something about the Contras and the Sandinista, Communist Sandinista government at the time. So, okay, putting it together. Well, after a bit, they let us go. We got back in the bus, and we finally get to this hotel. We walk into the hotel, and to find out that there's not enough rooms for everybody. So we wait, and other buses come up, and finally they say, okay, you have to pick somebody to share a room with. Well, there happened to be a woman who was standing there, and I just grabbed her, and I said, we are roommates, and I'm going to bed. And she happened to be French. So, you know, my French was, you know, so-so at the time. But we get our bed. I just lie down, queen size, wonderful, deluxe bed, when the phone rings. And it's her boyfriend, who I guess is on the same flight and in the same hotel. And they aren't rooming together. So I think, no, this isn't happening. They start an argument, and they start going on and on and on. So, you know, no, this isn't okay. I really need to sleep. So she hangs up. A little while later, phone rings again. Well, this happens several times, and then all of a sudden there's a bam, bam, bam on the door, and he comes in. Needless to say, the 2 hours of sleep that I thought I was going to have, I didn't have. So at 6 o'clock, we get up. We get back on the bus, we drive out to the airport, we load back on the plane, we fly to Managua, I get another bus, get up to Esteli, and I walk to this little shack that I'm living in, this little tiny, you know, the ones which you can see through, it had a single light bulb, and I lie down on this, it's like a metal springs, you know, those old rusted metal springs with a mattress about this thick. And I had the best sleep I've ever had. Thank you.
Thanks, Kim. In that short amount of time, I misplaced my paper. So I'm going to read it from my phone. Sorry. Oh, thanks, Susan. No. Yeah. What a mess. Oh, man. Okay. Alex Sackersen is a 2008 graduate of the University of Montana's School of Journalism. Hailing from a family of storytellers and having grown up as one himself, he now makes his living writing about the environment, politics, and the people around us for the Missoula Independent. Please welcome Alex Sackersen.
A little lower? That good? Cool. Oh, that's good. Excellent. So it seems strange to start a story about roads with a stop sign, but it's been a long time since I've been able to look at a stop sign and not think of that Journey song, Don't Stop Believin'. And every time I do, I think about Melissa. We met when I was a senior in college, back when I hired her on the arts desk of the Montana Kaiman over at the University of Montana. And over countless parties, she quickly became the free-spirited core of our social group. She was the one who taught us how to turn a blue tarp and a garden hose into a backyard slip and slide, how to turn our big orange cooler into a 6-gallon vat of sangria, how to smuggle a champagne bottle into a movie theater. She loved to tell this story about the time that she chewed out Olympic skier Johnny Mosley for signing her ski jacket without permission. And she was never above disappearing into the inky black night to go stencil another stop sign with her mantra, don't stop believing. So when Melissa called me one May and said, hey, I need a favor, I didn't hesitate at all. She was tapped to be a bridesmaid at a high school friend's wedding and wanted a college buddy there as backup, just in case things got a little too dramatic. So I trucked down to Billings, and for the first part of the reception, she was going about various bridesmaids' duties while I sat at a table with her folks, bonding over cake and champagne and goofy stories about Melissa and her childhood tennis years. About halfway through the night, about when the music started to really bop, Melissa looked like she needed a breath of fresh air. So we walked outside and sat on the curb in the parking lot. And we really had one of those conversations that we hadn't had before. She opened up at a level that, our sort of social drinking buddy situation had never quite, facilitated. And so she was feeling lost. She had already vowed to leave her job at the newspaper up in Kalispell, but she wasn't quite sure where to go next. She was thinking definitely go back to school, but counseling, law school, she wasn't sure. And I did my best to reassure her that she wasn't the only one who had lost her bearings among us in her early 20s, that I'd been pretty malaised in my own job and I was kind of casually looking around for other opportunities. But I told her tonight's a party. Leave all that heady stuff for tomorrow. About mid-July that same year, I found myself stuck in traffic back in Billings with a car full of pallbearers. We'd gotten separated from the funeral procession, and I was frantically weaving in traffic trying to catch up as Melissa's boyfriend Brett in the seat next to me was trying his best to navigate us there on his phone's GPS. We got there without too much of a delay, and we stood in order of height behind the hearse, and the muted purple coffin slid out of the back. It was about that moment that I realized that not all roads, as I had thought in my college years, were physical. That there were some roads out there that life throws you that don't have a dashed line, that don't have mile markers or speed limits. The days after news that Melissa's plane had gone missing had been gnawing at my gut. I'd known that she had intended to go up on a flight with some friends as a sort of last hurrah before she left the Daily Interlake. And when I heard that a plane had gone missing in the Flathead, I feared the worst. Because of my job, I was glued to a news desk, and so I kind of found myself in that position as the search and rescue crews were scouring rivers and mountains and news reports were trickling out of keeping friends across the country updated through text and phone conversation. And the torrent of emotion at the revelation that there had been no survivors in the crash had just subsided, or had barely subsided when I wrapped my fingers around the rails of her casket. We walked slowly down a road that I never, ever thought or dreamed or wanted to be walking. I told myself a million times not to make eye contact with anyone. And we rested her down, and I stepped away and felt like my legs were gonna buckle. If it hadn't been for a friend of mine who put his arm around me, I'm pretty sure they would have. About 2 months later, we found ourselves on a very different road, and I felt like my knees were gonna buckle again. It had been my friend Eric's idea to hike to the crash site to try to get what we thought would be some closure. And we were navigating with the vaguest of source material. We just had a Google Earth printout with the search and rescue crew's trail sketched roughly on it. It had been pretty easy to navigate down the Forest Service road through the clear cut, and from there we managed to find a few bits of search and rescue flagging tape that had been left behind. But once we hit the creek and got to the other side, we were forced to bushwhack. Every downed tree meant another scramble, another sliver in my shorts, which was dumb, another bruise on my calf. And just about the time that I was ready to give up, that we'd never find this place, that it was a fool's errand, Eric said the one thing that I never would have said he would say: butterfly. I took his word for it, and he went tearing through the woods after this flitting little object. And we were kind of forced to scramble after him as best we could, Eric being an endurance runner and the rest of us being portly journalists. And so we finally caught up with Eric right at the edge of a clearing, and it was immediately, unmistakably clear exactly where we were. The fuselage had been removed, but there were burnt branches and broken treetops everywhere. There was still metal bits strewn up the hillside, burnt upholstery. We had traveled up there together, we had blazed this road together, but for the next 20 minutes, each of us was completely alone. I wandered around the hillside, just kind of towing at the ground, picking up bits of metal and rubbing in between my fingertips. And I realized at that point that it wasn't closure we were gonna find, that this was just reality setting in, that the trail we'd blazed had led us to the unmistakable conclusion that Melissa was not out there anymore, that she was no longer traveling the road of life with us. When we'd all had our time alone, we reconvened at the top of the hill, we popped a bottle of champagne, rested the cork on the top of a cairn, and poured the first taste out onto the ground. And I wanted nothing more at that point than to be on a physical road, the kind I'd yearned for all through my college years, to be holding a steering wheel and to have a rear view mirror to look back on and see the times when Melissa had been traveling with us. But I also knew in that same beat that Melissa would have been the last one who would have wanted us to stop.
Thanks, Alex. Steve Gonzalez is a third-generation plasterer living in Polson, Montana, working mostly in Missoula. Tonight marks his third appearance on the Tell Us Something stage. Please welcome Steve Gonzalez.
It was the summer of '72 when we were told to vacate the White House. Not that one. This was in Sweet Home, Oregon. And Sheriff Hufford said, clear out by midnight Friday. So we loaded up 2 Army trucks, 46 Chevy flatbed, a 68 GMC panel, a 56 Chevy sedan, and a Chevy 2 with our children, our possessions, our goats, our chickens, our dogs, our cats, and a litter of kitties. But we had to sell the pig, who we named Hufford, after the sheriff, for for $50 because we just couldn't take them. So anyway, we load up and we head to the Yak River Valley to meet up with the rest of the commune who moved there the year before. So over there, everybody's settled. It's December. 5 of us say, hey, you know, Mexico sounds cool. So we took off down there and we said, if we make it down to Mexico, let's meet in Zihuatanejo the first week after New Year's and we'll wait. Whoever don't show up, well. So we all end up there. And then we decide, hey, Guatemala. So we end up. So now it's me and George take off first to Lago Atitlan in Guatemala, and Teresa, Joanne, and Rudy were going to come a day or two later. Me and George run into a couple who just came back from South America, Colombia, raving about how beautiful, oh, the people, the mountains, how cheap it is, and the drugs. Colombian kilos, $20. Coca leaves, legal, you can just carry them around. And the magic mushrooms. Huh, really? And they grow out of the Brahma bullshit. Who would have known? So me and George, we go, okay, hey, we're heading down there. So the other 3, they head back to the US. Me and George head to Guatemala City. I get a passport, and we go to all the countries in Central America and the consulates, get stamped in. All the ones that would do it for South America stamped in, hitchhiked to the coast, looking for a ship to work our way down. Everything was going north, so we hitchhiked across to the Gulf side. We hit San Salvador, we were going to sleep in the park. The police made us go inside their fortress, big giant walls with glass on the edge, because they said it was too dangerous. This was the first week of 1973, so it was becoming dangerous. So then we took off and we're hitchhiking, you know, Colombia, Sudamerica, a la verga, you know, means to the dick or something. Nobody knew what we were doing, you know, we were hitchhiking. I mean, what are we? They're peasants, you know, they're taking buses. So we had a code of the road. Never say no to any adventure, never quit or turn back. And when in doubt, eat. So we were hitting some places along, you know, I think going to Honduras, heading to Nicaragua. And it was barren. And I was reading a book called Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. So all the pages that I had read, we tore out, and we had time, and we softened them up and used them for toilet paper. So I think Hunter S. would probably think that was cool. So anyway, we make it to Nicaragua, and we hitch a ride on a fishing boat to a corn island, wait for a cargo ship, get on board, work as deckhands for 7 seasick days, go through the Panama Canal, land in Colombia, cruise around, run into a dude named Nelson, a Colombian dude, this Indian, invites us to go to the jungle, the Sierra Nevadas, to work and hang out on his coffee plantation. So me and George do. It takes us 2 days to hike up to the jungle, and the Arahuaca Indians live further up. We did that for 6 weeks, came back down, went to Bogota. We got careless because it was so clean in the jungle, we forgot about being careful with the water and stuff. We got dysentery, so we had to do the pills and hang out. So we left. We made it to a village called Pandi, way up in the mountains, 4 hours south of Bogota. We make friends with Argentina kids, French kids, Colombian kids, and US kids. We tell them about the Brahma bullshit. We're looking for the mushrooms. Somebody spots them. They tell us. We're living in a place for $27 a month. We split with 5 people. So anyway, we haul ass up looking for we find the pasture. George is going to look out. I'm going to hop the fence and look for the mushrooms, you know. So. And he does, and these guys are ugly, big old humps, black eyes, horns, like from Rancho Diablo, man. So I'm running around looking, it's like Easter egg hunting. Oh, wow, there they are. And I pull them out and the stems turn purple. It's like, oh gosh. I run over to George, we go down to our friends, make an omelet, eat it, head up to the mountains, wait to Okay, for me, I just melted into the earth. Like Black Sambo and that tiger. Okay. So anyway, wait a minute. So it went on all day long. Okay. We did it a couple of times, but I got the answers. I knew what to do. I mean, I knew the truth. All my questions were answered. So, me and George got together, we said, let's go to Argentina, hang out, head to Brazil, hop over to Africa, work our way on a banana boat to France, live with our French friends, screw the US, there's too much shit going down, man, we ain't never going back there. So we do. We're working our way through Ecuador, we cross the equator, get past Quito, and he's going, oh man, I don't know. I think I need to go back. So anyway, we head back. Because he has a girl he's thinking of. Okay, we did that a couple of times. It took us a month to get back. And I made it. But here's what I know from the road. I don't know shit. I never did. I was so much older then. I'm lamer than that now. Thanks.
Thanks, Steve. Alex Miller is a 12-year-old human from the sunny, exotic paradise of Lola, Montana. He has 2 eyes, 2 ears, a nose, a mouth, 2 arms, and 2 legs. He is the perfect specimen of a Star Wars nerddom. In his spare time, he likes to play video games and read novels. One day, in a galaxy far, far away, he will probably go to college and study something geeky. May the force be with you. Please welcome Alex Miller.
Okay. So during the spring break of 2014, I am 9 years old. We are in Bend, Oregon. My mom has the oh so brilliant idea of going on a mother-son bonding bike ride. Okay. So we load up our bikes and we head off to Bend. And we don't do the bike ride the day we arrive. We do it a few days later. And before we start, Mom decides to sleep in for a bike ride. So she finally wakes up. We have breakfast and lunch, and we head out. We stop at REI to purchase a headlight for her bicycle. So we get that mounted and purchased, and we head off. And where this ride starts, it's a restaurant with 2 parking lots on both sides of the building. We park in one of these parking lots, of course, and get our bikes and our map of where we're going on her phone, as well as this Pacer app telling us how fast we're going and how long it will take us. And we head off, and it's a nice day. We're riding through this park. There's people playing, folks having picnics. It's a beautiful day. And then we encounter a hill. And this is my first bike with a gear shift, so I have no idea what I'm doing. So I'm trying to gear shift not knowing I'm supposed to pedal while doing so, while at the same time my mom is yelling at me, and I'm getting frustrated and upset because generally when you're 9 years old and your parent starts yelling at you, it's because you're in trouble. So I think I'm in trouble. We eventually get it sorted out. I eventually just get off my bike and decide to walk it up the hill. And we anticipate that with all hills, you go up, you go back down on the other side. We don't. It's flat at the top. Great. So after several miles riding, we eventually find a gas station and we stop, get hot chocolate, snacks, go to the bathroom, and we keep going. And it starts to rain. Not pouring rain, just a gentle mist. And it's at this point my mom is thinking to herself that she should call her friend who we're meeting the next day for lunch. She doesn't because she's an optimist and doesn't want to quit. So we keep going. We eventually arrive in Bend, Oregon, after several hours of pedaling and pedaling. We arrive just as the streetlights are coming on. The headlamp, or the headlight we purchased for her bike is dead. Her phone is dead because we had the apps running. She luckily had the mindset to print this map so we know where we're going. The streetlights are coming on, her phone is dead, her lamp is dead. So we're like, okay. We arrive at the restaurant where we started almost 7 hours ago. And we go into the parking lot and the car's gone. So mom is in a panic thinking, oh my God, was the car stolen? Was it towed? Because it was one of those pay to park places. She can't get a call out to anyone with a dead phone. So she's thinking, okay, maybe we can pedal around, find a restaurant, a bar, with someone who has a 30-pin charger for her iPhone 6 or 4S. And before this plan comes to fruition, I remember that there were 2 parking lots. So my mom's like, oh my God, you're so right. So we ride around the restaurant and the car is there, thank God. She is amazed she did not get a ticket. So we load up in near silence, wet, from a combination of rainwater and sweat, hungry, and cold. So we load up, have the heater and the heated seats on because I rode shotgun. We arrive back at my great-grandma's house, which is where we were staying. She's mad because we didn't tell her where we were going or when we were going to be back. So she was about to call search and rescue after us. So we have a dinner, this reheated dinner, which is probably one of the best meals I will ever have. Because this may come as a shock, Cliff Bars and applesauce, those are not meals. Those are snacks. And we go to bed, and this bike ride is over. We now use this to compare any sucky experience we have. At least it's not a 30-mile bike ride, right? Thank you.
Thank you, Alex Miller. Thanks, Alex. You know, his mom did this a couple times, and he said, I want to do that. True story. Jason Weiner is doing things more often than he is buying things, and he was always looking for an excuse to go somewhere new. He recently returned from a walkabout and is still unpacking from that trip. He grew up in Concord, New Hampshire. He arrived in Missoula in 2003 to earn his master's in philosophy from the University of Montana. He's worked at the Missoula Independent, served on the city council, and formed a computer consulting company called The Texarcist. He's a ranger in Black Rock City every year at Burning Man. Please welcome Jason Weiner.
Thanks, man. That's a good height. Perfect. On September 11th, 2001, I was working in a pizza restaurant in Indianapolis, Indiana. 6 months earlier, I left my desk on the 103rd floor of the North Tower of the World Trade Center, and I got on a plane to Kathmandu, Nepal, which is where I met Kamal Lama. So there are many things about my job in New York that I do not miss. However, it was kind of amazing to have somebody call me up and be like, you need to take 3 weeks of paid vacation as soon as possible. Nobody does that for me now. And I was like, what the hell do you want me to do? Fish isn't on tour. Turns out there's lots of things you can do with your life besides go on fish tour. And so I was like, I'm just going to buy a plane ticket to the furthest away place that I can think of, which is Kathmandu, Nepal. And I flew Pakistan International Airlines. There's no booze. Every announcement from the pilot is followed by Inshallah, which, you know, like, we'll be landing soon, if God wills it. Indeed. Let's hope. This is 2001, so if you have a flight that originates in Karachi, you can smoke on the plane. And I'm like, I'm not going to pass up this opportunity. So I get out my tobacco, I'm rolling a cigarette, and the guy across the aisle leans over and he's like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm rolling a cigarette. He says, you must teach me how to roll a cigarette. Well, it's not like I was so good that, you know, I was like the best instructor, but somehow we both managed to construct cylinders capable of ignition, and we go to the back of the plane because you can't just smoke anywhere on a plane, right? You go to the back. And you know, we start chatting with each other, right? And he asked me what my story is. Well, his story is that he's Nepali, and he works in Dubai for Jotun Paints, and he's coming home for a month to visit his family, and then he'll go back to work. And, you know, my story is, I'm like 25 years old, 24 years old. I work in finance. I live in New York City. There's really not much more to it than that. So he asked me, well, like, what are you doing in Nepal? Where are you going to stay? Where are you going to go? And I say, I don't know. And he looks at me and he says, you must come stay with my family. Because, you know, this is, first, it's an invitation, and an incredibly generous one to somebody you just met on a plane. It was also an order, because I think you could see that I was, like, woefully unprepared to go to a place as strange as Kathmandu. And I didn't know whether to accept his offer or not, but we hung out. You know, he helped me get through immigration, because, of course, I wasn't prepared for that either. And we left the airport, and 100 taxi drivers descended on me. And he said something that I did not understand, and they parted, and I was like, I'm with you, man, let's do it. And so we go to his house, right, where his family, without any advance warning, does not bat an eye at this like guy with an enormous backpack who has just showed up on their doorstep. And I stay with him for a week. He shows me some of the sights and stuff, and mostly I just tag along with him while he visits his family. I sit in the corner, I drink tea, I do not understand what is being said, and it's perfect, right? I could never have asked for like a truer view of another place. And I've come to think of this as like the best kind of travel, where you just like find someone and just give them control. It's true. And I only learned this, of course, when I put a stop to it. Because I was like, I'm here on the other side of the world, I gotta like blaze my trail, and I want to go to the mountains. And I explain all this to Kamal, and he's still waiting for his bag, which the airline lost, and he can't leave Kathmandu. And so he gets me on like the last bus out of town before a general strike shuts down transportation for several days. And I wind up in Pokhara, which is this like city in the west that is like a jumping off point for the Annapurna Mountains. And my trip descends into cliche. I buy hashish, I smoke too much hashish, I throw away the hashish in a paranoid fit. I get a guide, I go to the mountains, I drink the water, I get sick, I climb thousands of steps. I go up a mountain before dawn with hundreds of other people to take the same picture as them of the mountain that is across the way. There are moments of magic. I met Beth and Marty from Vermont, and they told me about their life, where they travel 6 months of the year, they live debt-free on a piece of land, and I've never really thought about a life that is so profoundly different from the circuit, from, like the bed to the office, to the freezer, to the microwave, to the couch. That sticks with me. Of course, they're walking faster than I am, so, they move along. And, my trip continues. I wind up in like a safari lodge in the south, and hung over on the back of an elephant with like 3 Israeli tourists who do not stop talking in Hebrew the entire 2 hours that we're up there, and the elephant does like this, and never again. I finish Steppenwolf, the Hermann Hesse novel, and I am in the end, I am the protagonist, like lost in like the magic theater, despairing at this like world that I've created, and then I go to a home. I go to Kamal's home. I return to Kathmandu. His family welcomes me back. I give them all of the things that I can't fit in my backpack because I brought too much and then I bought more. What else could I do? And then they send me to the airport. And before they do that, they do this like ceremony. They put white scarves around my neck and a garland of orange flowers. It's like very moving. And they get me to the airport. I go inside the airport, breathe a sigh of relief. I'm on my way home. And then I go to the counter and they tell me, well, you did not confirm your ticket yesterday. You do not have a ticket on this, you don't have a seat on this plane. And I was like, oh, okay. And so I just kind of stood there and I was like, I really fucked up. But Kamal saves me again, right? Because the scarves and the garland become the occasion to have a conversation with the person who eventually gets me on the plane. And I don't know if he just like heard about their generosity and decided maybe I'm not a doofus, or if he was just like, you need to get this guy out of the country as soon as possible. But I go back to New York City and I go back to work, right? And I make it 4 days before, I'm just like walking on air. And I'm so happy to be back. And then, I start to feel it by the end of the 4th day. And I go home and my roommate is like, hey man, you can go to the job tomorrow if you want to, but I'm going to the beach. And I was like, I wish I could tell you I was like thinking of Beth and Marty and inspiration, or thinking of Kamal and his family's generosity, but mostly I was just like, I have a guide who knows more than I do, who's telling me not to go to work. I should go with him. So I didn't go to work on that day, and I never went back to that job after that. I did go back once to have lunch with like my old coworkers, and they were like, "What are you gonna do?" I was like, this is a snowboarding video game I play a lot of called 1080. I'm just gonna go somewhere where I can actually do it. I think I'll be happier. And they were like, "You're gonna leave New York, right? Are you gonna come back?" And I was like, "Listen, New York's not going anywhere, and I don't want to be here if it happens." So I wasn't. That's it. Thanks.